here. Today, we're all gathered here on this virtual platform for the second day of the 16th two-day National Workshop on Research Methodology put forward by the Kerala Law Academy Law College Trivandrum in association with Center for Advanced Legal Studies and Research. I proudly welcome each one of you to this event. Today, we are blessed with the presence of eminent personalities and academicians. So, I invite Professor Bismi Gopalakrishnan, Professor and Head of School of Indian Legal Thought, Mahatma Gandhi University, Kottayam, Advocate Nagaraj Narayan, Director of Kerala Law Academy Law College and Member of Bar Council of Kerala, Professor Harindran K, Principal of Kerala Law Academy Law College, Professor K. Anil Kumar, Senior Faculty Director of Students Relations, Kerala Law Academy Law College, and I invite all our beloved teachers, participants, faculty conveners, and student conveners to the 16th two-day National Workshop on Research Methodology. Now, I invite Ms. Lata Kumari, student of First Sem LLM from Kerala Law Academy Law College, to officially welcome our guest into this session. And please.
Thank you, Kavya. Good morning, honorable dignitaries, respected faculties, students, and my dear friends. A warm welcome to one and all to this virtual platform on the second day of 16th two-day National Workshop on Research Methodology conducted by Kerala Law Academy Law College, Trivandrum, in association with Center for Advanced Legal Studies and Research to enhance the participants' knowledge about the basics of research methodology and focusing on its theoretical and practical inputs. To improve the research quality, to enhance the analytical skill for the researchers and how to apply tools and techniques during their research. Today, the 15th day of March 2022, with immense respect, privilege, and gratitude, I would like to invite our today's first speaker, an epitome of knowledge and a lady of noble personality, Professor Dr. Bismi Gopalakrishnan, BAL, LLB, LLM, PhD. Dean, Faculty of Law, Professor and Head, School of Indian Legal Thought, Mahatma Gandhi University, Kottayam. She is acquired first rank in BAL, first rank in LLB, distinguished first class with the first rank in LLM. She is having international fellowships such as Alumni United States National State Bureau of Education and Cultural Affairs, International Visitors Leadership Program. She had published 2 books in her credit, 40 research articles, and produced 3 PhDs and 3 MPhil. She had presented papers in 30 international seminars and 80 plus national seminars. She is having 22 years of teaching experience. Ma'am, we are very much eager to hear from your good self from the topic plagiarism and ethics of research in this session. Madam, please.
Thank you. You can hear me, right? I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am,
right?
you're audible.
Okay, thank you. So, bowing before the memories of Dr. Narayan Nair sir, most respected Nagaraj sir, Dr. Lakshmi madam, Harindran sir, Anil Kumar sir, all my esteemed colleagues at Law Academy Law College, Dr. Dakshina, the coordinator of this national workshop, and all the participants of the national workshop, Team Kerala Law Academy, who has often created, have organized international seminars and workshops in a continuum fashion. And again, we are meeting on the topic of research methodology. So what Dakshina asked me is that to speak on ethics and plagiarism. So I have prepared a small slide and I'll just share the screen with you. Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. So, research ethics, publication, and plagiarism. That's a topic that we are going to interact for the next 40 minutes or so. So, basically, I'm sure you have already gone through this particular research, these questions. Professor Dr. N.K. Jayakumar sir and Sandeepa, they have already given you a vision of what exactly is research and what makes research work satisfying and interesting. So, research, I'm sure you have now reached a conclusion that a research, why do you do research? And I'm sure you have understood that research is nothing but going round and round to find the ultimate truth, to go round and round to find the ultimate truth. And what is the truth? At times you just go round and round without finding the answer as to what exactly you're finding. So that is research. Never be tired in that particular journey, and always have that fascination to go ahead in that particular journey. So that is research. And why do you do research? It's because you have the fascination for the word research. You're fascinated by research. And research is very, very important for your growth. And the moment, what happens is that the moment you stop researching, actually, you die intellectually. So you don't want a death which is actually intellectual death. You want to live a life which is very vibrant, which is intellectually very vibrant. So in that particular journey of research, you will be influenced by these questions. Whom are you doing research for? You're doing research for yourself. You're doing research to find answers to those questions that is throbbing in your mind. You're finding answers to certain questions in the society, and your research goes to the society. That is what you're doing research for. And whom are the recipients of your research? The recipients are the reader, the policymakers, the judges, the lawmen, etc. They are the recipients of the research. And you start with the research problem, you raise research questions, you play with this hypothesis. So all these are in your research journey. So with clarity of your aims and objectives, you do research with ultimate faith in your journey and having the utmost confidence in your guide. You go with your research ahead, and you understand that you also understand that legal research, your research is important because your research is used in law and policy formation. It is being used in filling the gaps of the law, and your research is also being used to conduct, to verify certain facts that is existing in the society. So legal research is very, very important. The fact is that you go on, as I already mentioned, you go round and round searching for the ultimate truth, and that truth may be a very big T, having a very big T, but the fact is that you're just searching for the truth, and at first you find like the blind people who went in search for an elephant, and ultimately you'll find an elephant, and then you will understand that what you have found is an elephant, and then it is not really an elephant but a mammoth wait for you. So this is what the whole process of research is. So very, very important in this journey is ethics. You have to safeguard this particular ethical aspects of research. It is very near to a researcher's life. And the integrity of research is rest upon honesty and trust. So the research integrity, it includes the usage of honest and verifiable methods in proposing, performing, and evaluating research. So, whenever we are doing research, we have to understand the basic rules, the regulations, the guidelines that adheres to a particular research. For example, if you're doing research as far as interdisciplinary subject is concerned, for example, you're doing research on a topic like the patents and life. So patents in living organisms. So look here, you are understanding. You have to understand the basic the guidelines of law of patents. At the same time, when you are entering into the realm of the research of living organisms, you have to also understand the basic regulations of the scientific laboratory, how they are inventing these particular living organisms, and what is the procedure that is involved. And when you say that, when you're linking right to life and patents, you are trekking into an area where you have to familiarize yourself with the basic fundamental approaches. So when you're doing research on bioethics and law, you have to understand the base. You have to have a thorough understanding of the ethical rules that uh, pertain to the research as far as the scientific research is concerned. So research integrity always reflects a very strict adherence to professional codes and norms, rules, regulations, and guidelines. So basically, what happens is that in the research journey, it is by and large self-regulating. So you may have your guide. You are doing research under the guidance of a guide. So he or she will always there be to guide you. But apart from that, it is also a self-regulating process. So how the materials that you use, the materials that you try to make use in uh, framing your thought process, in refining your thought process. So all these literature, these data, the interviews that you hold, the survey that you conduct, the sample that you fix, and why you have chosen that particular population. So why you have used an interview method. So why you have taken a closed interview method. So all the inputs from from these data collections, from these literature, has to be used without falsification and fabrication. So you have to present it as such. So the fact is that I remember what my guide, Professor Dr. Jayakumar sir, told me when I was doing research. So I was doing research in the topic right to health, and at that time, uh, when I used to write my chapters or just write small uh, comments on some topics relevant to right to health, he used to advise me, Bismi, you should never be a journalist, or you should never get biased between you should never get biased between two sides. You have a very independent view. You analyze both the views. You have a very independent view. You present the view and don't take stance as far as uh, don't take stance which reflect the inherent bias that you have. Maybe as a researcher, I initially had an idea that look, the access to medical care was not correct. It was not that appropriate. So it was the patient starter. The people were unaware of the patient starter. So I was blindly attached to this particular concept, this particular idea that this is what happens across. So I was actually, my mind was fused to this particular aspect. So sir told me, no, you're getting biased. It is not the correct method of doing research. When you are doing research, what you have to do is that you have to have an independent view, and whatever that comes in your way, you have to present it in a truthful manner without fabrication. So you have collected a material, you have gone to a particular section, and you are doing survey on the regulatory aspects of paramedical establishments there. And what you get, the result that you get is that the the paramedical establishments in that, in the particular area that you're working, is being monitored well by the local authorities. So you feel so shocked because you have written a hypothesis which stated that, look, the legal regulation of paramedical institutions is not appropriate, and we have to have a more legislation which have more power as far as the regulatory aspects are concerned. Look, whatever your findings are, you have to present it without falsification and fabrication. So maintaining research quality is very vital, and that radiates across the ethical aspects of your research. And the research which is conducted, it has to reflect honesty and the integrity to ensure the high standards of ethical practice and behavior. So sometimes you will be very tempted. The temptations become so close, and we will be compelled to cross the ethical boundaries. So never do that. I was just talking to my one of my current researchers who is doing research in an area called Parambariya Siddha Vaidyas. So actually, she belonged to the family of Parambariya Siddha Vaidyas, and she was just she's a very dear research scholar to me of mine. And then actually, she was arguing with me that look, this Parambariya Siddha Vaidyas who are not recognized by the law, they has to be brought within the purview of legal regulation. So I was just asking her, how are you going to include these unrecognized Siddha Vaidyas into the realm of recognized medical practitioners? So initially, she could not understand what I was saying, but she was saying that, look, this must be done because we are suffering a lot. So the suffering that they are undergoing, at the same time, a conviction that, look, they have remedy for many diseases, made her continue with that particular understanding that this is the factual situation. So gradually she could change her thought process as far as the entire research is concerned. So many a times what happened is that our temptations, it becomes so close that ethically it becomes the ethical the boundaries becomes very it has to be very strong, so that we should never cross the ethical boundaries. So the fact is that the ethical aspects, the establishment of academic integrity and publication ethics in the Indian universities, it is safeguarded by the University Grants Commission, created they created a consortium for research ethics. You've been knowing, you've been hearing as researchers, not as students, but PhD scholars of any university, and the faculty members of almost all the university would be hearing this particular consortium for research ethics. So on November 28, 2018, and the public notice was issued by the UGC, and also the UGC constituted an expert group on academic research practices chaired by Professor Rakesh Badnakar, Vice Chancellor, Banaras Hindu University, to study the topic and give recommendations and policies and procedures regarding the conduct, the production and dissemination of academic research. So on the face of it, what UGC insists is that your publications must be in the UGC careless journals, and we should not publish in at first when they insisted on this particular direction came from the UGC. There was a list of predatory journals um, on the terrain, and many of the people, they were running frantically to get their articles published in the predatory journals. But later on, we find that UGC revising their care list, and currently they have in 2021 also they have revised the care list, and they have published the UGC care list. At the same time, the UGC has also given us the guidelines as far as the conduct, the production, and dissemination of academic research is concerned. So, what, according to UGC, are the values underlying the research integrity? So, what are the values? So, now the values, what UGC mentions is that
Ma'am, you're not audible. Ma'am, Bismi ma'am, you're not audible.
hello, can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Now you're audible.
So, can you see the screen?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's fine.
So I was talking about ethics. So we have to ensure the dignity, the rights, the safety and privacy of the research ecosystem. So as I was mentioning the topics, whatever topics that you are doing, the dignity, rights, safety, privacy has to be safeguarded. It should not be compromised at any cost. And the rigor, the rigor of research. Research ensures high quality the research aspects. So the data that we use, the methods, the procedures that we use. Now it must be fine tuned with the transparent reporting and interpretation of results. Whatever reports, whatever materials, whatever data that you have, it must be carefully analyzed in a very transparent manner, and it must be reported, and the interpretation must be free of bias, and the relevance. So in the endeavour of expanding the knowledge base and understanding the environment and ecosystem, the research should advance the short-term and the long-term goals of the science and the society. So again, ethics always reflect transparency. So whatever you're communicating, whatever you're reporting, whatever you're reviewing, it must be in a fair and comprehensive and unbiased fashion. And the researcher should always respect the traditions, the cultural heritage, the respect for the colleagues, the participants must be given the due share of respect, and the environment in which you're doing research must be respected. So the respect is always a part and parcel of research ethics. Impartiality. So impartiality is also core objective, core principle of research, and the researcher should avoid conflicts of interest in setting research priorities, establishing research collaborations, and choosing research questions, and interpreting and assessing the implications of research results. So, and again, the independence of research must be clearly maintained. So, the accountability also must be always be remembered, because the spirit and letter of relevant rules and procedure and the regulations. For example, if you're doing research on the legal profession, the medical profession, the engineering profession, so the basic rules and regulations, if you're doing a research on the the paramedical staff. So the rules and regulations governing the professional standards must be clearly written across your mind. So in the three stages of research life cycle, for example, writing the research design, which is of course the blueprint of your research, the conduct of research and research dissemination. So research design, conduct of research and research dissemination, the ethical aspect must radiate, and you must always be so sure that ethical standards must be always be safeguarded. So in research design, it starts the aspect of ethics begins from the planning stage itself. So framing the research questions, the rationale, then the creation of new knowledge, the translations are all important research of research. And the when you are formulating the research design, what happens is that always have a the base idea that the positive outcomes, it is for the society, it is for the industry, it is for the country, it is for the ecosystem, and it is not something which is for your personal needs. So ethics is must be always be safeguarded, and the consent, the licenses, the permissions, all must be secured before starting a research. And the the research objectives that you have framed, and the project's plans, the milestones, the roles and responsibilities, and the viability of the study must be always must reflect the ethical principles that the UGC have talked about. So the research questions, it must be very clear, it must be focused, and it must be concise and logical, so that you do not deviate from what is expected from you. So research questions, and the if you are in a gray area, you can immediately consult the experts and understand the relevant theories and available data and records. So an understanding of the relevant literature is also needed. And when you're understanding the relevant literature, the ethical integrities, the nitty-gritties of ethics must not be forgotten. So the literature review also have the same process, and we must be very careful that only high quality and reliable sources must be of research. The literature review must be undertaken, and when you incorporate results in a review, it is essential to evaluate each reference for accuracy, authority, objectivity, and coverage. So you have to ask yourself, is the information reliable? Is the information error-free? Is the information factual? Is the information verifiable? What are the professional credentials of the authors? Is the journal a recognized one? Does the author have the subject matter expertise on the topic? Now, is a clear distinction made between facts and opinions? And then, is the information biased? So you must have an awareness of all this when you're doing literature review. And the most important thing, is the information correct? And also, is does the information meet the current needs? And does the information provide in-depth coverage? So the primary data that is being used, the secondary data that is being used, it must be used for the purpose of research, and it must be used. It must not be manipulated as far as the ethics is concerned. So uh, the chosen research methods must be detailed out, and never at a point that the research methods must be utilized for a purpose which reflect your inherent bias. So the ethical aspects has to be very careful when you employ methods to analyze and synthesize and interpret and make some sense out of the data that you have collected. So adhere to the principles of ethics, and uh, pay respect to the right and dignity of the stakeholders involved, so that the ultimate gain goes to the society. Now, what about the second aspect, plagiarism? Now, plagiarism is very, very important because uh, last week, all of us have was taken in was shocked when we read that ResearchGate was also brought under the copyright infringement issue. Now, the German court has slapped copyright infringement across ResearchGate, and as researchers, we have to be very careful as far as the basic issues of plagiarism is concerned. So, when I'm speaking about plagiarism, I cannot withhold myself from uh, talking about the copyright issues also. So, a research or academic process. So, when you are um, living a life of a researcher, uh, you have to publish, you have to make yourself visible. And when you're publishing, the importance is that it is the basic importance is that your research article will be read by many people across the society, and they will give comments on this particular research article, and your research idea will be fine-tuned. So that is one aspect, and also a lot of comments. You will receive a lot of comments, and you can also sharpen your research, a research topic, and the manner in which you are approaching that particular research topic. So apart from that, what happens is that uh, in this particular journey, you should never uh, tread upon. You should never create problems for the other authors who have published, because no article, no work comes from a vacuum. So you read books, you read articles, you read research articles, you come across different opinions in the blogs or in the primary and secondary data. But so everything is being already there. You are coming across already published works. So the fact is that it is not in a vacuum that you are creating your work. So because of this, we have to be very careful about the copyright issues and plagiarism which is involved in the research terrain. Because as law students, all of us know what copyright is and the basics of copyright, because copyright always attached to the original work of authorship, fixed in a tangible medium of expression, and it may be the different mediums that is available. So as far as it may be the audio visual, the sound recordings, or the written works. Now the basic of copyright is very, very important as far as the plagiarism in research field is concerned. So as I told you, because as a researcher, we read, we come across different aspects of, I'm just skipping these slides because you are aware of the basics of copyrights, which I don't think I should repeat. So here, as far as a researcher's life is concerned, is that there is always a conflict between author and the society. So whether there is a conflict or a convergence, we must decide, because as an author we must avoid plagiarism, and whatever that we publish, the benefit must go to the society. So whether there is a conflict or a convergence, because as an author, again, the rights of author, it is not only copyright protected, but it is also, there is a human right aspect involved in it, because um, Article 27(2) of UDHR and Article 15(1)(c) of ICC-ESER, it talks about the protection that is being given to the literally and the scientific aspects. So the human rights of the author is also being protected. But as far as the researcher is concerned, he often vacillates between two theories. That is the fairness theory and the welfare theory. Now, what is the fairness theory? Now, the fairness theory is author centric. So it promotes the rights of the authors. So it gives exclusive opportunity to the authors. Now, as far as the other hand, you have the society also. So the as far as the society is concerned, the society talks about welfare. So when you talk about the author talks about the author's welfare. Now, society talks about the welfare of the society. So the works created by the author must be available to the society. It must be, it must be accessible to the society. It must be affordable to the society. Look, so it is actually, it's a very difficult balance. On one side, you have the theory which says that author's right must be protected. So any other author which encroaches upon this particular author's rights, he must be very carefully warned. But on the other side, the society says that the works created by the author must be made available to the society for greater public interest. So hence, the authors, while having the right to benefit from their work of labor and creativity, also have a duty towards the society for dissemination of knowledge. Actually, this is something which is the very backbone of copyright and the very backbone which helps every researcher to move ahead, because it's a fair balance. So the fair balance between an author and the public. We actually, every researcher needs this fair balance. So a fair balancing of the competing interest of the society and the author is very much needed for the existence of a copyright system, which is also needed for the life of a researcher. Because if there is no fair balance, what happens is that we cannot do research, and whatever we do, uh, it will come under the whole aspect of a plagiarized work. So what exactly is this fair use? So the balancing is nothing but fair use, the doctrine which we study in the copyright aspects. So both the authors and the readers need to understand the nuances of this fair use, because on one side we have the welfare theory, which is based on the fair use clause, which favors the users, and the others which have the fairness, which favors the society. So in research, we know we come across different types of writings, isn't it? We have the general writing, we have the business writing, we have the academic writing, we have the personal writing. So we are concerned with the academic writing because we do research writing, for example, the assignments, the research papers, the projects, the dissertations, the thesis, etc. And we are also concerned with the book writing, for example, the textbooks writing, the reference book, the essay writing, the article writing, the research article writing, report writing, and the project writing. So academic writing is our food, and we have to understand when you're concentrating on the academic writing, we have to also understand the audience, the tone, and the content of the audience. So, as I've already mentioned, no work is made in a vacuum. So, academic works are based on previously existing works. So, these are the building blocks of every researcher. So, these works may be subjected to copyright. So, already you have certain works which are there, you have thoroughly depended upon those works, and that is the food that becomes the food of your research. So but when you're using it, when you're reviewing it, when you are analyzing it, you have to be very careful that you avoid plagiarism. So if you're doing research on any topic, whether it is right to health, whether it is the trips waiver, whether it is artificial intelligence, whether it is the concept of legal regulation of private hospitals, whether it is the patent pools, whether it is the involvement of the freedom of speech and expression, the contours of freedom of speech and expressions, whether it is right to privacy. So whatever it is, no work is made of vacuum, and so the academic works that you are making use and the writings that you the books or the materials that you produce has to always be within the parameters of fair use. So or otherwise you have to have a clear idea of article 52 of the Copyright Act, which gives you certain rights as far as a researcher is concerned. So that is the fair use exception is there, and all our works comes within the fair use expression, which has been cemented by article 13 of TRIPS also. So fair dealing, it is there. So it is an essential for academic purposes, private study, and for dissemination of knowledge. Now, unfortunately, fair dealing is nowhere defined in the Indian Copyright Act, and hence determination of the scope of fair dealing is to be done in a case-to-case basis, which is always a difficult task for the judiciary. So what the judiciary has undertaken is that they have develop certain tests so as to determine what fair use is. So we have to have an understanding of these tests, because sometimes we will just make use of an existing literature, or we will publish making use of these existing literature, and we will find that our work will be called as a plagiarized one. So we have to have a clear understanding of what exactly is fair use, and for that we have to understand the test that is being narrated by the court itself. Now, one of the tests that the court says is that that is the substantiality doctrine. So it says that, look, you can you can publish your work, but the fact is that you can only do substantial copying. So substantial copying and material reproduction amount to copyright. Now, what is insubstantial portion and what is substantial portion? So an insubstantial portion can be copyrighted work, and you will not be called for a copyrighted infringement. So what is an insubstantial portion and what is substantial portion has to be, is again, it is not defined, but it is actually purely a qualitative question. So for example, a short extract may be found to be a substantial portion, because if it is a key aspect of a work, definitely it will be a substantial aspect. So the larger the copying, the less fair is the dealing. So the exceptions as fair dealing are applicable only with respect to the reasonable experts, and larger the copying, the less fair is the dealing. Now, the second test. Now, what is the second test? That is a permissible purpose test. So look, you can, as a researcher, you can make use for private or personal use, for research, for criticism or review, or for the purpose of reporting current events, for the current affairs, or for publicly delivered lectures in media like newspaper, magazine, or similar periodicals. So these does not constitute a infringement. So the purpose is very important. So the portion becomes very important. The purpose becomes important. So fair quotations, extracts, comments, etc., will not be liable for copyright infringement. Now, again, uh, now this is a question which often come across teachers, because when they take photocopy of this is exactly what happened in a different form as far as ResearchGate is also concerned. We exclusively depend upon ResearchGate for our research purposes. So whether distributing course packs or whether depending upon the websites like ResearchGate involves a permissible purpose. So this again has to be very carefully dealt with, because here we have to understand the purpose, the character, the amount, the alternatives. For example, if you are supplying course packs, if you have a e-resources, if there is an abundant resources of available, then there is no use of giving course packs. And the nature of work and the effect of dealing on that particular work. So the fact is that we have to be very careful as far as the second aspect of this test is concerned. And then the third one, the qualitative and quantitative test. Look, my dear friends, if the heart of the book is taken away, then definitely that is nothing but plagiarism. Okay, so if the heart of the book is taken away by way of copying, that would not amount to fair use, and you will never get the protection as a researcher is concerned. And then what about verbatim lifting? So again, verbatim lifting is also a crystal clear case of infringement, and it cannot afford you the fair use defense as far as the researcher is concerned. So if you just make a verbatim lift of paragraphs and sentences from the books that you have read, or the peer-reviewed research articles that you have read, and then make it in your dissertation or thesis, then of course that is it is a clear instance of plagiarism, because that is verbatim lifting. Okay, now again, review, criticism, and you making guides. So a review here, it is as a researcher, you are summarizing the original work to present it to a third person. So that again, that is an academic purpose which comes within the purview of fair use. And criticism may be discuss the merits and the demerits of the work. Now, the guide may seek to help the student to understand the original work in a better manner. So here, when you're making creating a guide, what happens is that you should never you should never verbatim lift the text of the content from one book and then make a guide as such. So blatant copying of university prescribed books under the pretext of guide is not permitted under the doctrine of fair use. So verbatim copying of the original copyrighted work for commercial benefit is not also allowed. So look, unless the copyright is not transferred to another, the copyright always rests upon the author, and the research scholar has to be very careful when they tread upon another person's property. So many works with appears very trivial. For example, even the catalogs, the street directories, the brochures, the prospectus, index of railway stations, the railway guides, they're all, it comes within the so-called area where you can get the copyright infringements. So the databases, the translated works, the lectures, the abridged question papers. So all these are also eligible for the copyright protection. So the issue, now to sum up, the issue of plagiarism, it has to be looked upon both from an ethical and the moral perspective, and we have to regulate it very thoroughly, and the keeping an eye on curbing the issue of academic malpractices. What the government of India has done is that they have made use of the plagiarism, that is the plagiarism checking softwares, and they have made it very particular that the plagiarism checking softwares must be used in the academic institutions in the year 2018, and that is very particular. And what they have done is that the UGC has introduced the UGC promotion of academic integrity and prevention of plagiarism in higher education regulation 2018. So they have made it, and as a regulator of the standards of our education, we have to comply with this particular regulation. So what the regulation says is that we should never commit an academic malpractice, and which includes plagiarism. And if we undertake an academic plagiarism, what happens is that our degree, whatever the base degree on which we have committed this particular plagiarism, it will be taken aback, and it will not be available to us. So the regulation says that all the higher education institutions must adopt plagiarism detection tools to identify and ensure the quality of research. So here on a winding note, we have to understand plagiarism means it is passing of someone else's work as one's own. So it is not that good to pass some other person's work as our own, because it is the hard-earned work of other person. So never steal and never pass off or never use others' work without crediting the source of that particular work. So it is just like, when you're using plagiarism, you should also remember that it comes from the term that is plagiarious, which means it is kidnapping. Actually, when you are making use of some other person's work, you're kidnapping the words of others, and you're kidnapping the child from the parent, because the book is written by a person, and that is actually a child of that particular person. And when you're kidnapping that child, you're kidnapping the child from the parent, and that is not an appropriate method. So you create plagiarism because when you're not when you're quoting some other person's words from the internet, or when you're copying the content of the work into one's own paper without citing the source, paraphrasing others, by heavily relying upon another person's book or article, all these are plagiarism. So you should never do that. And we must understand and avoid the 6 elements of plagiarism, that is the base from which the particular sentence or paragraph is taken, the source of it, and without adequate acknowledgement, and without intention to deceive. So the fact is that plagiarism must be avoided at any cost, and the plagiarism detection has a close connection with copyright. There was an issue which stated that, look, when you're using plagiarism detection software, it also encroaches upon other person's work. So whether that plagiarism detection software creates copyright infringement, the answer given was that no, it does not, because the purpose of these tools is to help the society from avoiding plagiarism. So when the tools are there to avoid plagiarism, then the fact is that we must be very careful to avoid plagiarism, to safeguard the ethics of plagiarism, to safeguard the ethics, respect the integrity of all concerned, and to march ahead in your research life. Thank you, one and all. Best wishes.
Well, Bismi ma'am, thank you so much for your valuable words of wisdom. Such an enduring session. Now, I welcome Ms. Devi Urmila, student of first sem LLM from Kerala Law Academy Law College, to give the word of thanks. Devi, please.
Thank you, Kavya. A very warm good morning to one and all present here in this virtual platform. Honorable dignitaries, guest speaker, Professor Dr. Bismi Gopalakrishnan ma'am, Director Advocate Nagaraj sir, Principal Harindran sir, most beloved teachers, dear friends, and all other participants who are attending this workshop. As future teachers or professors, when we delve into research, growth happens in various directions. In today's academic world of performance-based appraisal and cutthroat competition, the more papers you publish, the more valuable your profile becomes. Apart from personal and professional growth, the knowledge we thus update will aid our teaching and bolster our confidence in the subject. Today, we are privileged to have with us the very knowledgeable, dedicated, hardworking, and eminent academician, Professor Dr. Bismi Gopalakrishnan ma'am. It is of no doubt that she has enlightened us about the latest methodologies and tools that will enable us to enter into valuable research and publish groundbreaking works in future. As many of us may pursue PhD program in future, this informative session handled by respected ma'am will help us greatly in succeeding our endeavor. So on behalf of my college, the organizing committee, the student conveners, and on my own personal behalf, I'd like to extend my deep sense of appreciation and gratitude to you, ma'am, for the informative session and also for accepting our invitation and joining us today amidst your busy schedule. Thank you, ma'am. Now, I'd like to thank our director, Advocate Nagaraj sir, for giving us an opportunity for organizing this workshop. On behalf of the organizing committee, student conveners, and on my own personal behalf, I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude to you, sir. Further, I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude to our principal, Harindran sir, for always inspiring and supporting us. Now, I'd like to thank the organizing committee comprising of our most respected professors, Professor Anil Kumar K. sir, Professor G. Anil Kumar sir, Ajita ma'am, Dr. Dekshna ma'am, Prajita ma'am, Vidya ma'am, Arun sir, and Arya ma'am. Thank you all for your valuable advices, support, and encouragement. Last but not least, I'd like to thank the technical team whose support without which this session will not be possible. Thank you all for your support. Once again, I'd like to thank each and everyone who directly and indirectly became a part of this workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, Devi. With this, we conclude our fifth session of the 16th two-day National Workshop on Research Methodology. I extend my thanks to all those who made this discussion a fruitful one with your valuable contributions. I humbly request everyone to attend the sixth session of the workshop scheduled at 11:40 a.m. Thank you, everyone. This is K. Kavya Mohan signing off. Thank you.